Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I don't know why I said it that fast. Then again, I am under a pretty tight schedule. So, first of all, videos, bottom of the video. You guys are seeing this on Twitch. You're not seeing anything, so I guess that doesn't really matter. But for you on YouTube, videos down here. I did daily vlogs from FanFest, so if you're curious about any of my thoughts on that stuff, if you didn't ask me about it in here, then check out those individual videos to get my thoughts about the trailer. We have a lot of videos coming out this week explaining who the blonde-haired girl in the Stormblood trailer will likely be. And on top of that, it's 2 monks. So we're going to do a video on why. I'm dead serious, by the way. We're also going to do videos regarding some of the stuff in the lore book this week, as well as keep working on those Savage guides to get those out, since we only have 9 so far, and we have 10, 11, and 12, which I will hopefully have beaten 12 by the time you see this video, or if not, by Wednesday of this week. But anyway, we have quite a few questions from the forums. We have quite a few questions from the live chat. So let's keep this one concise, shall we? Alright, first question on the forums. Hey, Mr. Happy, first-time poster here. What are your thoughts on the Astrologian buffs as of 3.4, and how does this change the dynamic between Astro and Scholar, and are Astro more valued? So Astro's been in a pretty good spot since it got buffed. I think it was in 3.3, and it's been pretty close to on par with White Mage, if not a little bit ahead of White Mage even, prior to these buffs. These buffs to, like, the people who are, like, all about min-maxing pretty much pushed White Mage out of the meta. Scholar is a reasonable thing that you can use in Scholar's place, a bit weaker than Scholar, but the big dynamic is that most people go Astro Scholar now with a Diurnal Astro, so it now complements Scholar so well. It's not just the healing potency though, it's having things like Sinistry, it's having things like the card buffs, it's having things like Disable to really complement the whole Scholar theme of mitigation while still providing a massive amount of direct healing and healing over time. So it's in a really good spot right now. That does not mean White Mages are bad. I just think that Astro got to that point where they buffed it, and they buffed it, and they buffed it, and now at this point it might be a little bit too much, at least on the diurnal side of the scale. We'll see how it happens. We'll see what happens to it in the next few months before Stormblood's release, but it's in a really good spot right now. Next question. Hey, Hap, to my binge watching on This videos, have a quote. Next time you enter a dungeon, do please bring a mob. And yes, you can has questions. Okay, so last week these question roulettes were awful. Now, to be fair, I don't read these ahead of time to scout to see if they're bad questions. So I am and they're probably all lore questions, so like I'm definitely not gonna have a good answer for any of them. But I mean, maybe they're okay. This actually, I think I know what this one is. Sly asked that before. I think I know what that one is. That one was actually covered on the live letter this last weekend. Do you agree? Let's go with the first one. That the term main for casual means the job that they can play best. That's not a bad question actually. So what defines what your main job is? That's a fair question. I get that from time to time. I think for the casual player, it's a job you enjoy playing most. I don't think it has anything to do with how well you play. When you're somebody who's not doing endgame raids and you're not doing stuff, you're playing the job that when you log into the game, you go, man, I love doing this combo. Look at my character when he does this combo. Dude, I look so sick right now. Dude, the Dragoon is awesome. Those are the things that define a main for somebody who's not really all about doing hardcore content. But the definition definitely changes quite a bit. Like for me, Machinist, not my go-to. Bard was not the job that I wanted to play in Raid. If it were up to me, I would have played Monk. But because I was raiding as Bard, or was raiding as Machinist, and Ninja I actually did pick, but because I was raiding as Ninja, at the time I considered those my main. I consider Machinist my current main, even though I would much rather be playing Monk. Because it may not be the job I play best, but it's the job I am rating on. So it all depends on who you ask, but I definitely think for the casual player, it's the job they enjoy playing most. Alright, next question. Hey, Haps, how you doing? It's been a while. I have a raid-related question for you. I raid on my main Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern. I love my group and we're making great progress. However, I am incredibly bored when I'm not raiding, and as you can see, it's only 3 days. I'm considering making an alt to raid with another static, but I don't know how to go about it. What tips can you give? Should I consider an EU group? Should I wait till 4.0? Thank you for answering. So that's one reason. We recently discussed why people would make alts. And this is one big reason, is to raid with multiple groups, because it's the thing you get the most enjoyment out of. Even if it's the same 4 raids, or you're progressing with one raid faster than the other, some people just like either having multiple perspectives from multiple jobs of the raid, or just raiding more than 3 days a week, just because they love doing it so much. That being said, the first thing you'll want to decide, do you want to raid on the same job you raid on as your other character? That is the first thing. If the answer is yes, then go ahead and go through the main story, go through Palace of the Dead, unlock stuff, get geared up, and then get to it. Look for a group. Unless you're in, I mean, you can do a European static if you really want. If you're someone who has the time to meet the static times for European statics, like, because obviously you'd probably be raiding several hours earlier in the day. But that's up to you. I probably wouldn't, just because that's a lot of time commitment. There's a lot of alternate sort of times of the day you need to be able to commit on different times of the week, and that's not always possible. If you want to raid on a different job, however, I'd say go through the job, do the same thing, but take the extra time to actually like really put yourself through a learning process. You already know how to approach the raids on a job, so you know how to be responsible for a raid. But now you need to learn how to be responsible for your role and for your job. So if that's changed, if that's part of your alt thing, I would definitely make some time to properly learn how to play said job. But that's really it. It really just comes down to you have to make sure the character is as geared and you're as good at whatever job you're playing on that character as you are on your main. And other than that, if you have the time, go out and recruit. Say you raid with another static. Make sure it's okay with this new static you're joining that you're raiding with another group. That you can only raid on the nights that you're not raiding with the other static. Because a lot of stacks actually aren't okay with that. All right, next question. Hi there. Hello. First time bonus here, so I have a full stack of HQ raid food. You are a saint and a savior. Lots of raid related questions get asked, so I'm not very original, but well, here goes nothing. The casual static, super emphasis on casual, that I lead recently had some issues. Our raid schedule has operated on pretty strict and limited times because a lot of members had school or work. Because we were casual players, I figured it wouldn't be an issue. Our final raid night, a tank and a healer decided to take it upon themselves to move raid times up earlier without even letting me know, just because everyone else was online. Long story short, I told them off for going over my head, and now there is no static. The healer left a big long rant in the chat about how I wasn't dedicated enough to static because I didn't want to start an hour early due to my own personal schedule, even after I bent over backwards as a leader to accommodate all of their schedules and designated raid times. My question is, what qualities do you believe are most important in a raid leader? What do you believe the responsibilities of a raid leader should be? First of all, it is up to the raid leader to determine raid times. If you were the raid leader at the time, and they went ahead and said, oh, we have 7 people ahead of time, and we're all available, but this person's not, and we're going to give you shit for having personal obligations that you cannot just leave an hour early, they're in the wrong here. That's somebody, and as you said, going over your head. You're the leader. They designated you as the leader. They should recognize you as the leader, and that just simply doesn't work. You can't say someone lacks dedication when they're doing real-life things to move their life forward, to make sure that they can live and breathe and eat and drink and pay to play the damn game. There's no way that you get in that hour earlier. Then that's not a matter of dedication. That's a matter of, dude, I'm a human being. I'm a person, and I have life responsibilities. Which, to be fair, there's usually some mixture in statics regarding how often people work or how much free time people have. On top of that, schedules change. So, I think the other person in the wrong. I think the leader needs to be able to designate times, and that it's not up to the rest of the group to decide that. It's up to the leader to put up a schedule, ask people to fill it out, and then determine the raid times that work best for other people. The other thing is recruitment. That's another big thing. The leader needs to be willing to be the primary enforcer on recruitment and come up with a recruitment process for the static, if they even have a process. If it's not just like, hey, grab a scholar, if he seems semi-decent, whatever. Some statics do it really casual like that, but I think the big thing is being able to organize the raid and also make sure that when there are discussions, and this goes with this topic as well, things don't get too heated, because when you're fighting and you're wiping and people, and you know, this guy died, then the next turn this guy died, then the next time you fight it, this guy died, and then the same guy died again, it's easy for people to get a little heated, and it's on the raid leader to sort of regulate that and make it so that if there is any sort of negativity in the discussion, that it's kept within reason, and that it is about the fight, and it is about doing better in the fight and making progress in the fight, and it doesn't become about personal attacks on the other party members. And it's kind of difficult because looks like they were trying to go over your head. It looks like somebody who just had more spare time was trying to push the raid times up an hour, and it just caused a whole heap and load of shit, and that sucks. But I think that those are the qualities a raid leader should have, and hopefully you can find a new one soon. All right, next question. Hey, Happy. Hope FanFest went well for you. It went fantastic. I like how you're asking this on October 10th, knowing I won't read it till I come back. You, sir, I give you a thumbs up for time travel. A couple of raid-based questions for you, but not the usual ones. We'll see if they're not usual ones, because I get a lot of raid-related questions. I've joined a newly formed static for the creator Savage as warrior, and it'll be your first time raiding with a nocturnal astro instead of a scholar. So it goes back to the thing we kind of talked about earlier. I know scholars can crank out some good numbers, but we were curious what kind of DPS numbers to expect the nocturnal astro with white mage. Also, I've kind of unofficially been thrust into the role of learning the fights beforehand and teaching the mechanics to everyone as we go. That's kind of weird. Everybody should be responsible for their own research. You shouldn't be the sole person responsible for that. Because that's kind of backwards, because it's like someone can't say, well, I don't want to watch a guide, and then you just teach them how to do it because you watched a guide. So there's no reason they can't just go watch the guide, I guess. I never mind. Anyway, but that's how I feel about that. So since my progression through Savage is further than the rest of my static, and doing mechanic callouts, do you have any advice on how to prepare for progression with the static as a whole? I'd say make them watch the fucking guides themselves. Like, it's okay if you want to be the one to sort of translate or, like, explain things to people when they don't get it even after watching a guide. Or if maybe they just need it explained to them a second time, or you get to be the one who positions people. Hey, 1 and 2 go there, 3 and 4 go there, etc., etc. And in terms of Nocturnal Astro, you'd probably expect a lower output in general, but expect that your other DPS to have a higher output because of things like the balance, and the balance. And the balance. Did I mention the balance? The balance. Got it. Balance. Anyway, so yeah, don't expect his personal output to be as high, but expect the output of the rest of the raid group to be higher. So don't be like, well, you do 200 less DPS than the scholar that I raid with over there. Fuck it. No, look at everyone else's numbers. Just as long as he's pulling the balance. That's all that matters. Just pull the balance. That's all you need. If you're an Astro guy, just pull the balance. I was doing Proto Ultimates last weekend. I pulled the balance. Everything was fine. That's all you need to do. So then, yeah, and do mechanic callouts. I mean, it comes down to make sure people don't lean on you to the point where they are incapable of performing in a static without your complete guidance. Make sure they are able to learn and replicate these scenarios for themselves. And yes, that's not going to be automatic, but they can't just have... You can't literally direct all 7 people to be like, you know, number 1, go over there. Number 2, in the middle of the fight. They need to be able to react. And you just go like, okay, we have the hard layout. Like, we have the hard numbers right now. And so people know, okay, this is the hard strat. Or, yeah, easy numbers, that's fine. Easy positioning, don't worry, guys. It's all up to that. So I'd say that's the number 1 thing. Make sure they are independently learning the fight and not leaning on you too much. Alright, next question. Sup, Haps? I'm a new asker, so here's a pet full-size Brute Justice and 800 Scripture. I know it's probably not the... What original question? I know it's probably not the most original question out there, but hey, nothing beats a failure but a try. That was really hard. See this right here? This is text. This like line that looks like this is actually text. That's what I was trying to read and whisper into your ears. And here's my question. If you were able to use the powers of any summon in any Final Fantasy but the more powerful summon, the bigger the drawback, which would you use in what situation? Why would you use it? I think the answer to that's probably Alexander in 14, because he's got time travel, dude. Anything with time travel is like... And obviously, the thing is, time travel is one of those things that kind of automatically has some of the biggest drawbacks, because you go back to change one thing and you change a bajillion other things as a process, or as part of the process. So I think it's kind of built into time travel, and since Alexander in 14 does time travel, I'm going to take that one. Alright, next question. Hey, Haps, not a first-time asker, so sorry, no bonus. Sad face. I almost said Soundy face. I was going to say... I don't know what I was going to say. Frowny face and sad face, soundy face. Greater unhappy face, as it's called here. I bolded the main questions. I rambled. Well, trust me, if you consider this rambling, you haven't watched one of my videos. Anyway, question about classes, jobs with two-handed jobs. I'm assuming you meant weapons. Easy example would be Paladin. Oh, you mean they have 2 different weapons. Okay, so Paladin is really the only example of that nowadays. Black Mage and White Mage don't really do the one-handed wand plus shield thing anymore. I think other jobs will see a return of one-handed weapons. Staff and shield, a sword in each hand. Oh, okay, yeah. No, I don't think we'll see this. I don't think there's much of a room. Unless they're really going to go ham on, like, unique statuses. There's really no point in doing that where they have, like, a knuckle in each hand for Monk or a sword in each hand. Or, I'm sorry, a dagger in each hand for Ninja or things like that. Really, I feel like there's no purpose served there without a lot of, like, additional effects added into the game. Now, you're saying it would allow for greater customization of stats. I see it as the other way around. It's more like... I mean, I guess you could say that if you have, like, 2 Monk Fists, for example, and one of them's crit debt and the other one's skill speed, well, you can't have accuracy, skill speed determination, and you're like, well, you know, I can get some extra, skill speed from this one. But you know what, stats aren't interesting enough to really, I feel, justify having 2 one-handed weapons and dual wielding them. For me, it needs to be that a system is in place already that allows for more unique statistics, not customization of the ones we have now. So I don't think there's really much of a benefit to that other than it looking cool, like being able to actually like equip. You know what? Okay, how about this? Instead of being able to equip 2 different weapons, how about this? If I'm like a monk or a ninja and I have 2 weapons, 1 in each hand, whatever, and if let's say it should let me glamour the offhand slot to change one of the weapons. Just change one of the weapons. If I glamour over the main slot, it's my right weapon. If I glamour over the... no, how about this? If I glamour over the main slot, it glamours both of them. If I glamour over the off slot, even though it has nothing in it because those jobs only have something in the main slot, and it just glamours over like my left arm, my left hand weapon or something like that. That would be pretty cool. That's probably also ridiculously hard for them to do. So I don't think it's feasible in the near future, but I think that would be acceptable at the very least, but that's more for glamour, not for stat customization. Alright, next question. What's up, Paps? What's up with you, my man? For you, I bring 1 downed Dragoon and some nostalgia. Slight spoiler from 3.4. Okay, guys, for those of you watching live and on YouTube, remember, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a thumbs up, and that means the spoilers have begun. And I'm going to do another one after that one, just so you're not confused. When I do it again, it means the spoilers are done. Just to help out, so in case those of you who just want to turn the audio down and not try to skip to the next question, we also take it off the screen. So I am going to start the spoilers now. Let's go. So I went back and watched the original CGI trailer for 1.0, and I remembered something. The Lalafell enchants the Dirtblander's bow with fire before he shoots the Malboro. I've actually spoken about this very recently. I think I know where this question is going. This same dual tech happens during the scene with the Warriors of Darkness right before you fight them. Now, I know they are making changes to the combat in 4.0, but do you see this mechanic will be making its way into the game? I think it would be an interesting addition, forcing more cooperation between players. I don't think there's a chance in hell we see anything like this. It's very reminiscent of Guild Wars 2's Aura, or whatever they call it, where like AoEs have like bonus effects based on, you know, what AoE you're standing in, or what element it is, or what weapon type you're using. And it's honestly... most people just complain if it's not like a super OP one, or there's so many fucking people that you can't even like properly arrange that. It added cooperation to some of Guild Wars 2's raids when they finally implemented raids, but it was never anything that was like, it felt like a grand addition to the system. The best one for me is when you're PvPing and you're in the one that when you use an ability, you have a chance to like remove a debuff from yourself, because that was always great to have. I don't think this is going to happen, and I don't think it actually adds... it doesn't add fun cooperation. It adds... they're trying to make it so that the jobs are simpler to play, and if they start doing this, this is going to make things way more complicated for people, to the point where you need to know not only do you need to know your skills, but you need to know how they cooperate with every skill of every other job to know where the combos are there. And I don't think that's not gonna do well, man. That's like something that like a few people would probably like in theory, and it might be fun sort of for a week, and then people get really tired of trying to arrange it over and over and over and over again. It's same with Final Fantasy 11 and skill chains. That shit was boring as fuck, and it was also only really good for leveling, because eventually people realized they did more damage not sitting there waiting for the other person to be at 100 TP and just going ham. Outside of samurais, you just always go ham, so that was a big thing. And that's why Magic Burst kind of lost their touch. Now they're back. You know, Geomancer's doing 100,000 damage on a spell. You know, that's always fun. But no, I don't see anything along the lines like that happening. You can't do systems like that in a game that wants you to move so fast. You need to be always moving fast, and to do that requires both people moving fast. And as soon as one person moves slow, it's no longer efficient. So no, I don't think this will happen. By the way, almost forgot. Alright, next question. Haps, first forum question for me. I know who it is. And it's a bit long and rambly, so I have a $100 pizza-sized Reese's cup. I have that Reese's cup in the freezer right now, actually. I kind of want to go get it. A few weeks ago, you mentioned that the developers of the game could stand to use some areas that are already in the game for more content. The example of the game was the Frontlines areas, and I agree there are areas that go underused. The big example I can think of is the Coliseum in Ul'dah, which has so much lore behind dueling, adventures, etc., except we've never had a fight there except the Hildebrand cutscene. Platinum Mirage also has so much lore, but yet we've yet to visit it. Another example, something that's massively underused is grand companies. I took time choosing my grand company when I first started. It felt like it didn't even matter in the end. I'm supposed to be using this for a question, so I guess I want to ask Haps. If you think any of this content is ever going to get used, and whether the feel the game has become by design too homogenized to give every class job and grand company the same basic content. I'm a casual story player and not that interested in grinding levels, tome seals, so for me I'd love it if there were a unique side story revolving around my grand company in which my choices actually mattered. So the whole thing about making content matter, making story choices matter, that will probably never happen. The main reason being you're trying to keep continuity and you're trying to keep the development within the game reasonable to the point where you can release content every 3.5 months. That's not saying they couldn't add side story quests for your grand company. That's not saying that they couldn't add, choices you make in the main story that change the cutscene. But the overarching effect of your character's influence will always be the same, so they can make sure they are directing players towards the same goal and towards the same types of content. Well, it's one thing you'll probably never see something like, I guess, Star Wars: The Old Republic, where you make decisions to be to do good things or to do bad things, and that sort of changed the armor sets that you got when you got to max level. You're never going to see something like that, because what's going to happen is then people are going to be like, well, what the fuck? I want to play as, the bad guy, but I don't want that to mean I only get the bad guy armor. I'm in an MMO, for God's sake. I really like the way the good guy armor looks, but those aren't my decisions. I don't want to make the good guy decision. So, no, I don't think you're ever going to see the point where it has massive story implications. You may have minor implications with like the way NPCs approach you or the way that certain conversations play out, but not the whole game for you as an individual sort of become instanced to your decisions, because that's what you're asking for if you ask for these kind of things. All right, next question. Hello, Senor Feliz. I hope I make it in time for the recording since you're already God damn it. You're asking it now, so yeah, you made it. Quick question. How did the 24 Warrior Proto Ultima go? So it was unsuccessful. I did not partake in the fight itself, but I kind of wish I had. Mostly because the biggest problem that was had with 24-man Proto Ultima was not that Proto Ultima was a hard fight for 24 Warriors. It was that probably about 18 to 20 of the Warriors had never played Warrior before. Like for example, some people, because it was on the computers there, some people didn't bind Bloodbath, so they had no self-healing. They all just went straight Deliverance and then just did like Storm's Eye and Fellcleave with Berserk. And that's it. I swear probably about half of those 18 to 20 didn't even use Berserk, so that's another thing to consider. There were only maybe 6 fractures up on the boss, maybe 8 fractures most out of the 24 fractures that should have been there. And the big thing was when there were no targets, or even when there were targets, but they needed healing, none of the warriors that were Deliverance ever went Defiance to use Equilibrium or Inner Beast or any self-healing. So, and even with all of that considered, they still made it to 22%, I think. It was like 22, 23%. So even with just like maybe three more warriors, that like people who actually played Warrior and knew to switch, it probably would have been a success. So sorry, Xeno, because it was Xeno and Miz. They were playing Warrior. I was recording over their shoulders pretty much the footage of it. I was hoping to get a kill, but no such luck. So, yeah. And they were all playing on PCs that time, yeah. So, it was unsuccessful, the 24-man, and Layla wasn't there. If we had Layla there, it probably would have been a kill. Keep up the good work, and I hope you're able to see you at the next FanFest for the 5.0 announcement. Hey, if you're there, I'll be there. All right, this is the last question over on the Dream Network forums. Then I'm going to be taking live questions after this question. Hello, Mr. Happy. This is Final Sim, and welcome to my question in your channel. You know, I've had a handful of these. There you go. I like it. I approve. Question is simple. What platform do you prefer playing on? PS4? First of all, proud of you for not saying PS3. Second of all, PC. Let's just say that when I play on PS4 at like Fan Festival, it reminds me of why I don't play on a PS4. To be fair, when they set up the PS4s at Fan Festival, they're set up with monitors that I guess don't really capture the right frame rate. I always feel like my frame rate's only like 20 FPS when I'm playing at Fan Festival. I don't know if that's because if like the graphics are just cranked up on their PlayStation 4s, but they're always like really, like even not a crisp 30. Like they're like 20 FPS when I play at Fan Festival on the PS4s, and then there's 60 when you play on the PCs. That's not the only reason. It's also just because I owned a PC before, and I've done PC gaming for years, and I've played all my MMOs other than Final Fantasy XI on a PC. I play most of my games on a PC. And I prefer the PC controls for MMOs general. Now, I know it's not necessarily a big enough reason because PS4 is like 98% similar to the PC version. But I always have issues considering things like, you know, Sony maintenance, not letting me on to Final Fantasy 14, or the issues that when you have an issue on the PS4 version, you better hope you don't have to reinstall the whole fucking thing, because that is not something I'm down for. I just prefer the PC pretty much in every method. Like, if I ever needed to test DPS, I do have access to ACT. I can browse the internet more easily, kind of, like, because I'm already on the computer. I just tab out, grab something else. It's all about the versatility of it. And especially because when I'm playing on controller, which is, again, also PS4, because I could plug things in, I always hate having to take my hand off the controller and, like, move my mouse over to click on, like, oh, let me listen to this new song or something. It's all fluid. If I play everything on this one platform, it's all fluid. On that note, everyone, that's the last question from the Dream Network forum. So now I'm going to be taking questions from the live Twitch chat for Mondays with Mr. Happy. So, ladies and gentlemen, go at it. Alright, I was expecting to get a lot of Stormblood questions, so I'm probably going to answer mostly Stormblood questions here. I'm going to make separate videos about a lot of these things, but for now, I might as well answer the questions. So the first question going to be coming in is, Mr. Happy, with 2 characters teasing, so you're talking about the silhouettes here. So when the 2 silhouettes shown that we might just get 2 jobs in the expansion, you think Red Mage will be a range DPS and healer, while Samurai is a melee DPS and tank? I do not think they will fit multiple roles. I really do not think that these new jobs will support more than a single role. The game is not built very well around that. That being said, with the changes to the additional skill system, that could have been a mini teaser that they're doing that, because it just makes more sense in order to allow something like having one job being able to fill more than a single role. And I'm totally okay with that. I think it's something that would be really interesting. But from Red Mage, no, not a ranged DPS. Melee magical DPS. So think of it like a ninja that does magic damage, almost, in terms of where their party place kind of fits. I imagine them having a lot of buffs and debuffs and a lot of opening up weaknesses kind of thing, but doing primarily magic damage, but from melee range, and with very limited number of casts, mostly doing it through their abilities having elements aspected onto their weapons. I don't think elemental aspects will matter much. It's probably just going to be flat magic damage, but you know, things like in fire just doing more damage, or in water maybe adding a slow effect or things like that. That's more of a PvP thing though, so we'll see where that goes. And for Samurai, I do think it'll be a tank. I think they'll just outright make Samurai a tank at this point, if Samurai is even the other job. You know, we only know Red Mage. I can't even say we know Red Mage for certain, but it's like Scarlet Witch. Come on, it's fucking Red Mage. But no, I don't think that they'll make it so that the... I'm putting the Moogle slipper back on because I took it off to itch my foot. I don't think they'll be doing 2 roles for each of the new jobs. Another really easy question about the expansion. Do you think 4.0 jobs will start from level 30 or higher, considering the level cap itself is going to be raised to 70? I think level 30 is still a good place to keep them, because that's when jobs are introduced in the game. The big worry, the bigger concern for me is not what job they start, it's what level I can unlock them. Am I going to need to be level 60 to unlock them? Probably. So, we'll see how they do that if they don't make it so that they can be unlocked earlier by some means. I have a feeling that, yeah, they'll start at level 30, but you'll probably have to be level 60 with the first couple of quests in the expansion done in order to unlock them. Luckily, we shouldn't need 3.1 to 3.5 story to get to 4.0 this time, so that might speed it up a little bit. Alright, next question. Mr. Happy, I'm trying to move to PC gaming, but I'm having trouble picking between a 4K or a widescreen monitor. I mostly play MMOs. I have a, I have a 1440p monitor right here, and I don't like it. I don't like 1440p for MMOs, not full screen at least. The one thing, if you're going to go with 4K, with a 4K monitor, and I can say that this is actually an okay reason to use a 4K, but you probably just want an ultra-wide monitor instead. Yeah, probably this is better for an ultra-wide monitor as opposed to a 4K. If you're just going to get one big-ass monitor like that, you probably just want to play the game in something like 1080p and then use the rest of the monitor for, like, browsing the internet. Or for me, I keep track of chat and tips and cheers and all that shit with the other monitor. If I had a super wide, I would probably just do it all on one. But I actually prefer having 2 monitors to a super wide, so I wouldn't make the jump to 4K. I still think the jump to 4K is we're still too early. It's probably another 2 years before 4K is something that's considered somewhat of a standard, but even I'm not like super hyped for that. So I don't know, 1440p monitors more than enough. I don't think you need to go that crazy into a 4K. Get two 1080p's or two 1440p's, and I think you'll be fine. Alright, next question. Mr. Happy, I have a question. I started 14 2 months ago. I have White Mage and Paladin at 50. I'm kind of intimidated doing level 50 content. Do you have any advice for getting over this? No way to it, but to do it. First of all, keep in mind level 50 content is not all that important anymore. You're basically just doing 4-man dungeons because you're probably not going to be doing binding coils. You might do the 24-mans, but the odds of you doing binding coils as a level 50 pretty low nowadays. So, no way to it, but to do it. No way to get over it, but to plow on through. So the best thing to do it, just queue in and just do it. And if you have anxiety, try to pay attention to the chat just to explain the boss mechanics, if they even do that. Otherwise, if you have a lot of anxiety, just turn off party chat overall. Like, if your anxiety is so severe that you don't want to even take the chance of seeing somebody try to communicate with you and it's something negative, then you have to do that. But I would recommend at least trying to read party chat and then only turn it off if people start going like, dude, what the fuck? What the fuck is this shit? Yeah, otherwise I would say you have no choice. Really, the big thing is, though, is that level 50 content's not big anymore. You got to do the 50 content to get to 60. So that should be your goal right now. Next question, Mr. Happy, do you think it would be better if they released one job every half a year instead of No, because here's the thing. Every time you release a new job, you pretty much need to rebalance the entire game. And if they're going to do that, that means they have to rebalance the entire game every half a year. Ninja being thrown into the meta was okay, but it still completely changed the face of the way people value the different melee jobs, and they need to take that into consideration. Releasing a job every half of a year is kind of just odd timing, because it means that they have to do that rebalancing twice every year, and I don't think that's a good idea. Alright, I'll take this next one. This is another one I'm going to make a dedicated video for. Is there any solid confirmation that the woman in the trailer isn't a dancer, outside of the obvious Chinese influence? So I'm going to be making an entirely separate video talking about and I talked about this even in my day 2 vlog, talking about the martial arts influence in her move. She wasn't dancing. Those are not dances. Those are traditional martial arts stretches and poses. Hell, even doing taekwondo back in friggin' grade school, we had poses and stuff. Yes, it wasn't that artful, but that's the whole point. It's not uncommon. Even if you've watched something like Kung Fu Panda, they do shit like that. So to me, I immediately saw that and I was like, wow, that monk is doing some really cool shit. And everyone else is like, that's a dancer. That's a dancer. Like, no, that's a monk. Monks, dude, have you never seen like a Chinese movie or anything? Like, they do this shit all the time. This is like completely normal. So, I think there's no solid confirmation. I'll say that. They never outright said that blonde female character is a monk. The closest thing you have to that is when somebody asked, when they were talking about how the Warrior of Light went from Dragoon to Monk, and they said that Monk will be the focus of the expansion. The other big thing, there's a reason why we only see a 2-minute teaser when the whole trailer is probably about 5 to 6 minutes. And you can look back at Heaven's Ward for this. You can look back at A Realm Reborn for this. They have never revealed a new job in a trailer, and they probably never will unless they're going to announce the job the same day as the teaser. It's crazy and people keep using that as an argument, like, why would they do a trailer of just 2 monks fighting? Why the fuck would they just do a trailer of a fucking warrior getting his ass kicked by a dragon so then a dragoon could save him? To hype it up, to hype the job up. Al Amigo is known for monks, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, she was doing martial arts forms, guys. So there's no, to answer your question, no, there's no solid confirmation. But I will be incredibly shocked if they reveal the job and then didn't talk about it immediately to then talk about it like 6 months later. That would be shocking. Alright, I'm going to take this next question. Mr. Happy, what were some new experiences you had at FanFest this time? I wouldn't say there was really any new experiences. Like seeing a new expansion, anything that's like this time, the new songs for the Primal concert. Those are new experiences, yes. But to me, those don't define what a new experience is. Well, I talked about this in my day 2 vlog as well, that I approached this FanFest a lot different. Last FanFest, I was kind of new to being in front of so many people, or so many people even caring about my opinion or for my autograph or anything. And I kind of didn't know how to conduct myself. I just conducted myself as like a dude out there having fun and, you know, being a little loud, being a little rowdy, kind of a dick. And this time I was like, you know what? I am here at FanFest to A, find out about the expansion and whatever news I can, and 2, enjoy the show, and 3, meet as many of the people who support my channel as possible. And those are the only 3 things I wanted to accomplish. I only did Proto Ultima. I literally did nothing else. I didn't do any of the mini games, any way the wind blows, the little toss thing. I didn't do the PvP. I didn't even stand in the merchandise line. I didn't even get on the friggin' Chocobo. I did that, and I was on the stream for an hour. Though it's because I just wanted to try out a new fight, and then spend as much time talking to people as possible. And it was immense. Like, I mean, I did it 2 years ago, but this was way more people, way more talking, way more handshaking, way more pictures, and I loved it. I'm not someone who needs the attention, but when somebody gives me their attention, I want them to know how much I appreciate it. When somebody comes to the stream, when somebody comes up to me and a lot of people were really shy and they didn't want to ask for a picture, or they didn't want to ask for my autograph. They didn't want to bother me. There's somebody talking to somebody else and they just waited there for like 15 minutes. And finally I'd be like, hey, I've seen you over there this whole time. I've been waiting for you to come over. Like, come on. And that's what I wanted to make sure I got done for the most part. And I wanted to make sure that some of the people who were there for the first time, like Miz, F This Mary, Sly for his second time, but his first time since, you know, becoming a partner broadcaster, being a host on State of the Realm, I want to make sure they all got that same fit. They all realized that, you know, it's easier to hear the most, I think I actually left the sound on by accident, but I'll thank him for that. Sorry, YouTube. I know I've had that turned off, but I was just thanking somebody before this question. I'll thank you for that. Thank you, Bug T, right after I'm done with this question. It's really easy to hear the negative voices from the internet. It's really easy when you're just reading them. It's meant for every thank you you get, it only takes one person to tell you you did a shit job, or you're a fucking piece of shit, or you're awful. It only takes that one person. It's really easy to listen to that one person. But when you go to an event like this, quite frankly, nobody has the balls to do it. So you never have to deal with that problem. Maybe once or twice you deal with that problem at most. And most of the time, you just look at the person and you're like, okay. I'm just gonna go walk away now, so I hope, if that makes you feel better, dude, have a good time, because I'm gonna go talk to these other 20 people who say they like my content and not listen to the one guy who is standing in line all by himself with his book, hoping to get it signed because nobody would come here with him. That didn't actually happen to me, by the way. Everybody I ran into was incredibly nice. I didn't have anybody trolling me. I had a few people tell me that they like had free company members who were being assholes, like when they found out that like I was there. But that's different. That's them, because they're just like, dude, I don't care what they say. I just want to fucking hang out with all you guys, because you guys are actually really chill in person. None of us have gotten to meet you in person, and like honestly, it's just, you're just really cool. I thought you were going to be a completely different person, but no, you're all exactly the same, and you're all grateful, and you're all just happy to be here. And that kind of environment is really uplifting for us content creators, because like I said, it's really easy to listen to the negativity when it comes to the internet. There's no Reddit posts. We avoided Reddit this weekend, guys. Oh man. So yeah, that was really the new experience, was just being able to focus so much on the positive that not a single negative thing really happened to me or around me. And that was great. That was really uplifting, and I'm really motivated to get a lot of content out this week because of that. All right, this question goes way back because it definitely doesn't apply to me right now. You'll understand why in a second. Mr. Happy, I remember you saying you were pretty into fitness and exercise at some point. What was your favorite exercise to do, and what was your least favorite? So, for those who don't know, for a good several years of my college life, I was somebody who hit the gym every single day. Actually, even if you go back and watch some of my original videos, it was just after I had injured my shoulder and I wasn't able to go to the gym for like 6 months, and then I started doing this, and I just got wrapped up in this, and I stopped taking care of myself in that way. I was also really afraid because I wasn't ever sure when my shoulder was fully recovered. But I used to be a big gym head, like over and over again. Now I just eat so much. Ugh, it's so good. I got this beef jerky right here. Looks like weed in the bag, but it's beef jerky, I promise you. Anyway, so what was my favorite exercise? My least favorite was definitely deadlifts. I don't like it. I could do them, and I never injured myself doing them, but there was always every deadlift I ever did, just the fear of the injury was kind of stunting. I felt like it was stunting how much I was getting out of the exercise, because I was doing it while fearful of the damage done. I know plenty of people who have done unbelievable damage to their bodies through deadlifts. And so I definitely avoided that for the life of me. I know some people who live for deadlifts, but me, no, man. If I'm going to do a deadlift, it was going to be just light deadlifts, not like pushing 400, 500, 600, etc. pounds, trying to get the biggest pull I could possibly get, and then rip my body in half. And yes, it is a safe exercise with good form, but the fear of even just letting your form slip for a second on a deadlift it's called a deadlift for a reason, because it's gonna fucking murder you if you even slip up for a second. And most people do indeed injure themselves because they do not know the technique. I luckily never injured myself because I knew it. I probably would injure myself now if I tried to do it, because it's been too long since I've done deadlifting, but that was always, it's just always an exercise I feared because of all the exercises you could do, the amount of damage it could do, always instilled fear into me. My favorite exercise, despite being from New Jersey, it was not biceps. It was actually pull-ups. Pull-ups are a very basic exercise, but I always had, so when I was younger, and I wasn't in the gym, but like this is way before, like I'm talking about when I was like 14, 15. I remember phys ed, and you know, phys ed was not a specialty of mine. You know, again, huge video game nerd throughout most of high school. It wasn't until college till I got into shape. And I always, like, every time they did those, like, physical fitness tests where they make you do as many sit-ups as possible, as many pull-ups as possible, it was always the pull-up that was the toughest one, because you'd see the skinny kid who has no muscles do, like, 20 of them because he weighs 80 pounds and look like he's strong as shit, and me, who could probably beat the shit out of that guy, I can't do one because I'm fat as fuck and I don't exercise, so... I'm sorry, I had to say it. So I always had this really, like, to me, like, as soon as I could do pull-ups, it became, like, a huge, like, feeling, and then I started changing it. I started putting the weight, I started, you know, hanging the weight for me while I did it. I started doing pull-ups in different form, and it was just a super satisfying workout for me, and it would always, and it gave me a really good burn, you know, and it always felt really good to do that. So it's a really basic one, and it's definitely not one of the most fancy ones, but I've done so many different kinds of pull-ups, chin-ups, wide pull-ups, you know, with weights hanging. I've probably done at least 10 to 12 different variants of the pull-up, and it will always be one of the most satisfying ones for me, because I couldn't even do one pull-up when I was young, and then all of a sudden doing 20 of them in a row, it was just that feeling. It was like seeing myself having made that far, remembering back at phys ed class where I was the kid that everybody laughed at because I couldn't even do one. So it was just, that was a feeling that I really needed when I was progressing in the gym. All right, and the last question I'm going to take for this week is something about the opening keynote that was discussed. Mr. Happy, could you give your opinions on the new relic/anima quest being tied to new content as opposed to old? Well, the first thing I thought of was damn. So that means they're going to have to think of a different way to motivate for old content. Wondrous Tales, of course, came to mind. That's a really big one. And then, of course, Glamour or whatever else they do. They probably have plans to motivate for old content. After seeing Wondrous Tales be so successful at getting people to go back and do old content, you might see more systems like Wondrous Tales or the expansion of Wondrous Tales be the primary means that they use in order to really get people doing old content more frequently. And I think that's a good thing. I think that sticking the relic quest in there, well, it definitely funnels more people to actually do it in the, like, maybe in the duty finder to get new players get it done. I think that the content that new players need to get done the most is not in dire need. Maybe the 24-man still kind of need a little bit more loving, because even when I get those in Wondrous Tales, I just don't do them. Like, you know, unless it's Weeping City. Like, there's no way I'm going to do them. So, they probably still have a little bit of work to do on that front. But Eureka the Forbidden Land as a whole, the fact that they might tie the relic quest to that, first of all, Eureka is known for the Forbidden Land from Final Fantasy III. If you haven't played it, that's where Eureka the Forbidden Land actually comes from. They've been talking about adding it to the game since patch 2.4, but they said they wanted to make sure they did it in a way that was interesting and fun. They didn't want to make a new raid and it was just, hey, Eureka's the new raid. They wanted to do something unique with Eureka. And the idea of it being sort of the culmination of everything they learned from the exploratory missions, feeding into that feeling of kind of having an open world zone. It's sort of like the Diadem, where there's quests there that are designed for larger groups, and it's not a place that you really explore alone. And I like that. And because Eureka in Final Fantasy III is where you find all the legendary weapons, it's really easy to tie some lore into that, to have this new relic quest, to have a new anima quest in there for our new weapons. So to me, that all comes together and sounds like the right idea, because people always say, hey, we want new content when it comes to the relic. And yes, honestly, it'll still probably come down to doing a shit ton of grinding in Eureka, but it's better than being told, hey, go do this dungeon you've been doing for 4 years because you need tomestones. You know what I mean? So if they can do that properly, it's still going to be a drag at some point because you're still going to be grinding out a crazy amount. But it's better than what it has been so far. That is my opinion on it at the very least. I hope to see Eureka be successful. I hope to see the high-end raids be successful. I hope to see the 24-man be successful. And I especially hope that the challenging new dungeons, as it said, will be successful if they can make it so it doesn't just feel like, hey, I'm running from A to B to C to D over and over again, and it's boring as hell. But anyway, that's going to be the last question that I'm going to answer for this week's episode with Mondays with Mr. Happy. Everybody, thank you for asking your questions, and thank you again for the immense amount of support. You probably picked that up earlier from the other question, but it has been ridiculous. Even when I've been trying to do this, we've gotten a couple of Twitch Prime subs, which I've been trying to thank in between questions and then edit it out, something like that. But anyway, guys, I have raid in about 30 minutes, a little bit less than 30 minutes. I have raid, so I'm really looking forward to getting back into that and hopefully getting A12 Savage down in the next, well, maybe a few hours. I doubt it. We're all going to probably play like shit because we haven't raided in a week. We'll see what happens. Anyway, videos under the stream. Thank you again. Again, there's vlogs. There's Bestiary. I did another one on Sand Wars. I got to get some more Healer Happy videos out this week because I'm not behind, but I didn't get as many done last week as I would have liked. So it's going to be a super busy week, guys. Expect a ton of videos, a ton of speculation, not a lot of facts because we don't have a whole lot, but a ton of speculation, and expect to rage comment against other people with your own opinions in my YouTube comment section and in my Twitch chat because I'm foreseeing that happening. Anyway, thank you again for watching. I will see you guys at the next Mondays with Mr. Happy, and until then, take care.